Are you ready? The Kornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Kornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Kornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. I'm so excited to have our show today to talk to you and introduce you to our amazing guests that we have. Our first guest is in Portugal, living in Portugal, and he is Andre Santos. He's here, and welcome to the show today, Andre.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I want to get into your bio a little bit, but welcome to the show. And so I just want to let the audience know of your background, that you are an expert and a savant in human psychology. Your background for decades was studying psychology and combining it with engineering principles to predict human behavior.
Yes.
This is an important key, everyone, that I want you all to take note of. Then using that to de-escalate conflict and persuade leaders to make big decisions. You pioneered this hybrid form of psychology and engineering because you were dissatisfied with the conventional models of psychology. And you're responsible for numerous breakthroughs in that field now that allowed you to map out the factors at play in human decision-making. Now you're helping clients use these strategies in their marriages, and the results are amazing. You worked with hundreds of individuals who did not have their spouse's support in saving their marriage, and you took them from the brink of divorce to a loving and committed relationship again. Your unique approach to communication and relationships relies on understanding the absolute truths about the spouse's brain and their unique subjective realities, providing an effective and reliable method to reconnect with them. As the creator of Science of Connection and the CEO of Awesome You, Andre has worked tirelessly to implement this system with his clients. His unmatched success rate reflects his dedication to this system and to every client. Welcome to the show today, Andre Santos.
Thank you so much, Cornelia.
So I was wowed, I have a lot of shows. I mean, I do a lot of shows. I meet a lot of people and a lot of unique people. And you are obviously a very unique individual when I said in the early part of the bio is that when I ask people to take note is combining the engineering principles to predict human behavior as you were developing your technique.
Mm.
Was that a true, is that the
That's
take?
that's very accurate because my finding with psychology, psychology is great. It's a little bit too abstract for me. I'm on the spectrum, I'm autistic. So the intuitiveness of human interactions, it isn't intuitive to me. So I was really struggling learning psychology because I could understand the concepts. I could memorize the way that ideas would interact with one another, the specific principles that would be at play. But then I couldn't identify that when that was happening in people, like right in front of me. And every one of my classmates, it was easy for them. It was like they had this sort of innate superpower that allowed them to read people's minds. And I was the outcast. I was like, what the F is this? Like, how are you able to do this? And when I asked them for help, they would just tell me, you just see it in people, when they look like they want to talk about something, like, how can you tell that? So like, that wasn't doing it for me. Like, it wasn't something that I was able to do. So I leveraged my autism to become really obsessed, to become really compulsive about breaking down psychology in a more engineering way, breaking it down into math, breaking it down into like the physics of the psychological principles so that they interacted in equations. And then putting all of that together, that allowed me to, for one, it gave me the metrics that I could see that were, now they were obvious because they were very tangible. And it allowed me to, and that was really the key thing that you mentioned, was it allowed me to start predicting human behavior to scary level of degree. So long as we have the variables, we can calculate the end of the equation.
Yeah. Wow. That's profound. So, the way that you just explained this, what this says back to me is that you have found a way to support people and help people in a way that they didn't see, just
Mm,
like you didn't see what was natural and intuitive for them,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so now, do you want to tell us about, give us, how does this work?
Mm.
So, yeah.
There's a lot of different variables that we're going to have at play. And I would break this down into the fundamental equation of human behavior is there's going to be an element of your personality plus your beliefs that you have about yourself, your spouse, and the world, plus your emotional state that you're in right now. And when you add these three things up, you have the output you have of the behavior. So all we need to do if we want to predict the behavior is we need to be able to figure out what the specific value for each of these variables is. And so, for instance, the emotional state, that's typically the easiest one to tell because not for me, it wasn't. I had to learn that the hard way. But for most people, because you have the intuitive advantage of you can tell when someone's sad, you can tell when someone's angry, you can tell when someone's fill in blank emotion. So you can fill that one in. That's going to be a factor that's going to play into how they're going to respond. But it's not the only thing. There's a lot of different things that will play into that. Another one is going to be the beliefs that they have. And so this is something that I see very, very commonly is, for instance, oh, my spouse, they said that they love me, but they're not in love with me. So I need to show them that I love them, and I'm going to do these big romantic gestures, or I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to do all of these things. Like people will come to these conclusions based off, honestly, social media, but they'll come to these conclusions of this is what I need to do. The problem is you didn't look at what the equation was for your spouse. So you're skipping steps. You're coming up with a random number. If you had to solve an equation by guessing what X is, I don't like your chances. So it's just kind of the same thing that people will try to do is like, oh, I just need to work on myself, or I just need to do like this big romantic gesture. And oftentimes that backfires because, for instance, one of the beliefs that the spouse has is you are selfish, that you are manipulative, that you are controlling. And so you do a big romantic gesture. And I'm thinking, well, but you're manipulative, so I'm not going to trust this. You're BSing me. You're just trying to play me. You're just trying to get me to change my mind so that you can have your way again and you can take advantage of me. Like they're going to go into this whole narrative based off of one thing, which was what their pre-existing belief was. So we need to be able to break down these variables. The first thing, what is the emotional state they're in? For most people, this is the easiest one. Second one is what are the beliefs that they have about themselves, the world, and you? And the third one that we need to be able to break down is their personality. So there's multiple different ways of looking at personality. There's Myers-Briggs, there's Enneagram, there's all sorts of different systems. Honestly, you can either learn all of them or you can learn just one and stick to that, so long as it's something that is intuitive to you and something that you understand as best as possible. I have my own system that we developed based off of the levers that make people fall in love. So it's kind of like language, the love languages, but in reverse. Instead of like what makes someone feel loved, it's what makes someone feel love for you. So that's how I decided to break down the personality compartments to be able to understand what is going to matter most to each person. But there's a lot of different tools that you can use to understand your spouse's personality, because that's going to tell you a lot. One metric, for instance, is if someone's a matcher or a mismatcher, meaning if someone tends to, like on autopilot, their first reaction is to agree or to disagree. So, for instance, you, Cornelia, I can already tell you're a matcher, which is wonderful. You're very warm and affable people. It's a pleasure being around matchers. I myself, I'm a mismatcher, which I can be a dick sometimes. But it also helps me with other things, like I will come up with different systems and different ways of doing things, like, creating this system. So all that means is that when on autopilot, before my brain has had a chance to process what has actually been said, I'm already saying no. That's not a great thing most times. On some instances, it may be, but most times it isn't. So if your spouse, for instance, if they are a mismatcher, if they have a tendency to say no on instinct, then if you try and persuade them, they are very easily going to entrench against you. They're going to be very stubborn. And you're going to try and try and try again. And you're just going to get resistance back because that's what their brain is programmed to do, is say no. But if you understand that variable, you just switch that around. You just make that so that the no is the yes. So for instance, like to use a very basic kind of example, don't you think that we can make this work? What is the automatic response? No, that's not what you're looking for. So if you instead asked to a mismatcher, is this something that is this something that you feel the only way forward is to give up? What is the automatic response? No. So now they're agreeing to work on the relationship because you know that their instinct is to say no. They are much more likely to go along with to commit to working on the relationship, just because you understand this variable of personality.
That's so huge what you just said. I mean, that is really, really good, with the way that you phrased that question, which takes time to sit down and think about. So if you don't know what your person's, what is it, personality?
The personality, yes.
If you don't know what your person's personality is, then you don't know how to approach them, because this takes some questioning, some strategy, right? Like to sit down and really formulate, because when you said, however you phrase that question, I don't remember that, but how you phrase that question, and then the automatic response we know is going to come back no. But the way that you put it, that you put that, I felt the walls actually came down.
Mm.
Like I didn't feel the stubbornness. I didn't feel the resistance from that person that has the no generally response.
Yeah.
Because I suddenly felt like now that person's willing to work it.
Yeah. You're using their stubbornness against them, which really is for them, not against them. But like you're just leveraging. This is how their brain works. And if you have an iPhone and you don't know how to work with the operating system of the iPhone, you can't get much done. Same thing with your spouse. If you don't know what their operating system is, you can't get much done. And so you're going to have really dumb arguments, and you're going to get caught up in like really small things that become really big things. And I've seen people get divorced over the small, most ridiculous things. Like people tend to think that the biggest topics of arguments are money and sex, and then family would be third. That's what people tend to say. Like, I know that that's what the stats say, but I don't think that's true just based off of like my personal experience. I think the most common the most common cause of conflict is just a very severe, acute lack of understanding how the spouse thinks. So then when we talk about all of these things, sex, money, and family, that we are going to be like running headlong into the spears. Like we don't know how they're going to process information. We don't know that, for instance, their auto responses say no. And so we ask them something that we want them to say yes to, and they say no, and we get hurt and upset, and we start a fight.
Yeah. Yeah. We start a fight, and then the next thing you know, then we stay angry for a long time, and then all kinds of things happen, and then we just have evidence of, oh yeah, my partner doesn't love me, and I'm in the wrong relationship, and all these things, and then until the next thing, until we either kiss and make up, or until the next thing, till the next event happens or whatever, and it just goes on like that for years and years or whatever,
Until
right?
eventually divorce and there's no more arguments to be had.
So how are you helping people right now? Like, do you have a book? Are people able to take your tests? How is it that people can, how do you work with people now?
Yeah. My book is currently, we're giving it away for free. You can get it on our website, saveyourmarriagealone.com. And we also have a community in which we do free trainings almost every week. I'm going to say like bi-weekly.
Yeah, so I just want to say, because you said it so fast, saveyourmarriagealone.com. You said it so fast.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm a fast speaker.
I'm helping you out. You said it so fast that most people didn't catch that at all.
Mm.
So saveyourmarriagealone.com. That's powerful. I love that. And then are you on social media? Where can people follow you on social media and look you up?
Yeah, most active platform that I'm on is Facebook, and I'm sure that you're going to give them the like a link or something in a description so that they can find it. And we'll be coming to other platforms soon, but for the most part, currently it's the Facebook groups, as well as we have a newsletter when you sign up for our book that we send like daily tips and daily techniques, strategies, things that they can apply over email.
Good. I know a couple people that I'm going to direct your way, because I think that they would be served by what you're talking about here. And I mean, it's not just even people that saveyourmarriagealone.com. It's also for people that are in a marriage and that want it to last.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
also that, it's doing that, what is it called? Preventative work now.
Mm-hmm.
Things that you should have learned in school, or would have been nice if we learned that early on before we get into contractual marriages for 20, 30, or however many years, but that we have the tools to do
Yeah.
that, right?
I
Yeah.
wish more people would come to me preventatively, because usually when they come to me, it's because everything's on fire and they
Yeah.
have nowhere else to turn.
And when everything is on fire, first we have to put the fire out. So there's a lot. And
There's a lot.
then we can get to unpacking. So I
Yeah,
see that your work is evolving and growing and for many, many years to come. And so I look forward to having you back on the show. We're going to talk about how you can take this technique into other areas as well, not just marriage, but even with other relationships and things like that. Andre,
absolutely.
thank you so much for coming on the show today. And we're going to take a break on the Kornelia Stephanie Show. Everyone, we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and tuning into the Kornelia Stephanie Show. Our next guest is Dana Baker Williams. Welcome, Dana.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you. I want to let everyone know a little bit about your background. You are a compassionate and highly skilled ADHD and anxiety coach dedicated to empowering parents, teens, and young adults. You are drawing from your own personal experience as a mother and your background in psychology. You offer practical, evidence-based strategies to address disruptive behaviors, power struggles, and intense emotions. Through personal one-on-one coaching, small group sessions, and engaging speaking events, you provide clients with tools to foster understanding and connection within their families. Your empathetic approach and deep insight into ADHD and anxiety enable you to guide parents in promoting self-advocacy, resilience, emotional regulation in their children, leading to stronger and more harmonious relationships. Your mission is to inspire hope and and create calmer and more connected homes where both parents and their spirited children can thrive. Welcome to the show. It's good to
Thank
have you.
you.
Yeah. So we were talking just before we came live today. You were saying how you got started in this field. And so why don't you take us back there again?
Okay, it was, I don't know, 10 years ago that I started, but I actually started dealing with it well before that. I had a pretty big job. I was traveling all the time when my kids were little, and I got quite sick. So I had to stop working. And the good news of that was I got home, and when I picked up my daughter from kindergarten, the teacher said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're home now. Maybe the stomach aches will ease." And I, what stomach aches? I didn't know anything about them. Um, so by being home and not working, I was able to really see what was going on in the family and see that my daughter was struggling. And then after that, there was a real battle to figure that out because what I saw, she was masking, so you didn't see it in school. And girls, you don't notice the behaviors as well because we're sort of both trained to be quiet and demure still. And ADHD and anxiety both just manifest differently between boys and girls and stuff. So anyway, it took me a long time, but talking to a lot of teachers, everybody's like, she's great, she's fine, and she's smart, and so she was doing really well. And pulled her out of public school, tried private school, that didn't work either. And finally, I just said, okay, well, maybe nobody else sees this, but I do. And my daughter was frustrated at that point, right? She was taking 5 hours to do homework that should have taken, nothing. Um, so we got her assessed, and she has ADHD, anxiety, working memory, working processing issues, sort of all the things, some depression. Um, and I got that diagnosis, which was a relief because I knew that, okay, great, I'm right. And for her, it was a relief because she's like, I'm not stupid, which,
Yeah.
is just one of those things you hear because you're not staying up to date or whatever. And they get a lot of negativity coming at them. And so we found her a great therapist and we used medication and it worked like amazingly well for us, changed our lives. Um, and but then I was still there and there wasn't anybody for me to go to. Therapists didn't know anything about ADHD or parenting, particularly. There weren't coaches. And so I just had to dig in and I did. And I love to learn. I love to read and research. And so I just dig all the time. And I took courses and I took facilitation and coaching. And I just decided I can't possibly be the only parent out there who is isolated, scared, alone, and thinking, is my child ever going to leave my house?
Mhm.
So I was a writer as well. That's where I sort of started my career. So I started writing parenting and articles and anxiety and ADHD, and it just kind of flew from there.
Wow. So it was kind of like very organic how that happened for you,
Yeah,
you being traveling for work. And then uh, you said you got sick,
got very sick.
then you got home, and then you saw what was going on, that there was something going on with your daughter. So it's so interesting.
Yeah, it was a
I
blessing
I know. I just
in a
think
way.
that's just such a miracle that, how that happened, how you were brought home to really see what's going on. Because if that wasn't the case, or if you wouldn't have paid attention,
Mhm.
pushed through or whatever, because people push through.
Yeah,
And, because you could have just gotten home once you got, well again, you could have gone back out, but you didn't.
no.
And so that was huge. I was speaking to one of our other one of my other co-hosts that comes here on the show. I was letting her know that mental health in this
Mhm.
ongoing time is more important now than ever. I
It
mean,
really is.
from anxiety, like you said, ADHD, suicidal rate,
Hmm.
the whole thing. It's now more than ever, we need the tools, we need the support, we need the coaches, the people need to be available. And here's the thing, now is the time
Yeah.
to get the support you need if there's change that needs to happen in your life and you don't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, between COVID and the world, that really shifted people's anxiety levels,
Yeah.
as well as learning to do Zoom and like for kids and teens being home and not being with other kids. Those kids that I was seeing at the time, the anxiety kids thrived because they were like, I can hide behind my computer.
Mhm.
The ADHD kids, it was really hard to pay attention on Zoom. So it's been really interesting, and it's wonderful to be able to be a resource for people,
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, well, you obviously you created it for yourself, so now you can, give that all back because it obviously was happening in your household, and now that you
Yeah.
have all of that managed, you were mentioning that your daughter is thriving in Europe right now.
She is. When she was in college, she really wanted to go abroad for her junior year, and that was COVID. So she was home for a lot of college, and she couldn't go abroad. So she worked for a couple of years after school and then said, okay, I want to go get my master's in neuroscience. So I am going to do it in Scotland. I'm going to go to either Edinburgh or I'm going to go to the place that she's at, which I'm blanking on, St. Andrews. And that's what she did. And now that's where she is. And I was talking to her yesterday. She's like, I miss you so much. And then the next thing out of her breath is, I think I'm going to be here a while. Okay.
Wow. So that's what a huge success story.
Yeah.
That is such a success story, it's still in its evolution, but it's already a huge success story based on what you did at home and the things that you did at
Well,
that time, right?
it's interesting to learn how much it's on our parents to shift first because um and that's where I struggled because I knew I couldn't parent her the way I was parenting my son. It just didn't work the same way. Um, and I knew from an early age that she probably had anxiety because she had little meltdowns when transitions happened or things were changed from what she expected. So, it starts early, but it is really interesting to see that we have to be the ones to change first because they're too young. Even working with teenagers, um, they still don't have the same brain development yet.
Yeah, and really it's the parent's responsibility to be the adult in the room. The child is here to grow and discover who they are.
Yeah.
And, but it's not their job to learn how to parent because they're not the parent.
Right. And, it's a beautiful thing to learn from them as well.
Yeah.
Because every
So
kid is different.
how are you helping people now? Like who is your client and who are the people that are finding you? How are you helping them? So basically, the woman, the people that are listening to this, they're
Mhm.
going, oh, that's me. And then this way,
Yeah.
right?
Hi, I'm stressed out. I'm exhausted. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I need help. That's the person I serve.
Okay,
Um,
yeah. And
well,
that
those are
person,
the good.
that person may have children or may not have children or
Yes.
Mhm.
Usually, so I have sort of three groups. I have the parents of kids with ADHD and anxiety, and those kids can be young or they can be adult children, and they're trying to figure out because a lot of people aren't diagnosed until late. And then the parents are like, well, now what do I do? How do I parent this person when she's a child? She's not really a child, right? How do I do that? How do I adjust to that? So I work with parents, but then I also work with teens and young adults who have ADHD or anxiety. And, those are very different skill sets, but it's all covering sort of the same information. And everything I do is custom because every family is so different and every manifestation is so different, even with the same diagnosis.
Yeah.
And so right now I have a lot of college kids who either got through first year or first semester and then suddenly they realize they're really struggling, or they're going back to college because they took a break. And that, setting up structure when you don't have any in college and you have all the distractions for somebody with ADHD, or if you're a socially conscious, anxious person, that's hard too, right? So I kind of handle everything from executive functioning of time management and organization and all of that, but also social support and flexibility and self-advocacy and life skills, all those things that parents don't necessarily know how to teach or that they need to teach.
Yeah, because the parents don't have it themselves. That's why you said the parents need to work on themselves first. And then,
Yeah.
then they can teach those to the children. The thing about, like with anxiety, like I said, mental health, mental well-being, there's so much that is, tapped under that umbrella, anxiety, so many things that people are anxious about. I mean, just even looking at the whole evolution of AI and what's coming forth there.
Absolutely.
And you said college students, and I was just reading an article about a college student that was looking at becoming a journalist and also writing an article about how AI is now taking over journalism, because
Yeah.
if you can have the AI do all the
All the
journalism,
research.
why am I then spending $100,000 going to college to become a journalist?
Yeah. I mean, it's a fair question. And
So, and that's a question, and that's anxiety for
right.
you, right? So, and there's all of that. I mean, there's just so many things that we're facing, and now more than ever is the time to get support. How do people find you on your social media, and how do, like your website, how does that all that work?
So my website is called parentinginreallife.org. And you can book free session with me to chat and see how I can best support somebody. I am on social media, mostly Parent in Real Life. Again, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can kind of find me anywhere.
And
And
what is
yeah,
it
I do
called? What is it called?
parentinginreallife.org.
Parenting in real life. Yeah, it's easy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's like that on all the handles?
Yeah, my
Good.
parent, usually shortened to Parent in Real Life is mostly my handles. Yeah, and I'm
Mhm.
doing a workshop this weekend actually for teen girls in Marin, where I live, all about stress. Stress and overwhelm and anxiety. What's the difference? How do I have some quick tools at my fingertips? Um, so yeah, I love working with my clients. I really do.
So how do, like that workshop you're doing with teen girls, how did you, how do people sign up for that? Like, how
They
did those teen girls find you, my point?
That's a good question. I think it was from the work I did in the high schools, trying to bring wellness into the high schools locally. And so they probably found me on my website and then emailed me. And I was like, sure, I'd love to do this for, for that. That's great.
Yeah.
Um,
So you're saying the high school did that they set that up, or the teen girls?
the teen girls did. There's a group of sort of ambassadors, of teen ambassadors, and they are running it and doing it, and there won't be any parents. It's pretty amazing.
That is amazing. And I
Yeah.
think that's empowering for the teen girls to know that, the parents aren't there, that they could just go and help themselves.
Yeah. I mean, advocacy, right? Self-advocacy is so critical, such a critical skill.
Yeah. Well, whatever you did, you obviously made an impression on them, or, even your marketing that is out there that talks about that. It's impressionable. I admire that, teen girls that want to better themselves and want the
Right?
tools. That's very admirable, because those are the leaders of our future.
Yeah, that they can see that and do that and make it happen is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got the workshop this weekend, and are you working on anything else? Or you mentioned different groups. People can find you then on
I
Facebook, like you said.
Yeah, I do small group coaching as well. And that's for right now. I have one that's running right now, just opened for parents of any age, kids with ADHD and anxiety. And that's we get on Zoom a couple times a month. They can
Yeah.
bring actual questions. I can teach them all sorts of things. It's fun.
It's so interesting, nowadays with ADHD, how so many people, are diagnosed with that, and also with being on the spectrum. And when we're looking at 50 years ago or so, that wasn't the case. And so it
No.
really makes you curious as to find out is
Hmm.
why is it like that, right? Like what is that about? So how can we make that better and be more preventative in not carrying this forward.
Right. How do we teach the skills now and keep that going because then they're setting them up for success no matter what their issues are, right? You're putting the scaffolding underneath them.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure to have you and talk to you. Thank you, and good luck with everything that you're doing,
Thank you.
empowering these young girls and also the parents.
Thanks a lot. It was great being with you.
Thank you. We're going to take a break on the Kornelia Stephanie Show. We'll be right back, everyone. Welcome back to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, everyone. We have our last guest for today, and that is Amey Deanne. Amey Deanne is back to the show. Welcome to the show today, Amey.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Well, I want to let the audience know a little bit about your background before we get started. Today is part 2 of having a series that we're doing together with you. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But first, let me introduce you and let people know that your earlier years to being a mom and wife, you were a dedicated mom and wife, and you were facing a separation ultimately that led to divorce after 29 years of marriage. You realized for the first time that you didn't know who you were. Like many other mothers, you had put your own wants and needs aside to raise your children. And now that your children are adults and no longer depending on you as they once did, you found yourself on a unique journey of self-discovery. While continuing your career in corporate America, you sought an outlet for your creativity and you started a side business called Resilient. Initially, it was created as a craft venture. Resilient has evolved into something much more meaningful because you're also a writer and you're also a speaker and you're just an amazing creative. You wrote a chapter to the Amazon best-selling book called Shine Your Light, which was the cherry on the top for your own healing journey. And now you focus on connecting with women across multiple platforms, empowering them to discover their truest selves. You exemplify the idea that you can achieve anything that you set your mind to. And that is so true. I know that about you. And it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here again today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me back. I really appreciate it. And I love being on here.
Good. So we're doing, this is part 2. This is part 2. So part 1, it's a series that we're doing. You're coming back every 2 weeks, and we're talking about finding your truest you series that you created. Just give us a little, what does that mean?
It's a series that I am starting also the first few chapters of a book that I'm writing. And it is tips, tricks, things that I have gone through, things that worked for me, things that didn't work for me, in becoming my true authentic self. So finding your truest you, the last episode was trusting yourself. So that's the T in truest you. And today the R in truest you is recognizing that everyone's journey is different.
Yes. And I told you the last time when we spoke, maybe not on the podcast, but in the mastermind group, at some point, I was telling you that this is more than just a book. This is more than just a podcast. What you're talking about is finding your truest you. It literally has a life force. It's a movement. It is a movement. And it's so important, especially in this day and age. You personally know me because you know that I like to talk about astrology and use that and weave that in various different, talks. And when we look at Pluto being in Aquarius right now, this is the perfect time for bringing our uniqueness out in the world. And any place where we have not done that, Pluto is going to come in and help us get to the root and get to the bottom of why that is not the case. So that's why I think it's awesome that you're doing this, helping people find their truest you. You changed the subtitle of the book recently. It's called
Finding your truest you, but it is a guide to finding your authentic self.
Exactly. And the authentic self, I think, is so important nowadays because we want authentic relationships. We want to build an authentic world. We want to live in an authentic, we don't want the facade,
No.
so in our inner world and in our outer world. So recognizing that everyone is on their own unique journey. That's the topic we're going to talk about today. So what would you like to say about that?
I think it's really easy, especially caught up in social media, for us to compare ourselves to other people. Oh, this person has been out of their traumatic situation for a year, or this person for 10 years, or that sort of thing. And it's really easy to compare yourself. Oh, look how well they're doing. They've been out of their situation for this long, and why am I not there yet? Why have I not reached the point to where I can move on, or whether I'm healed or whatnot? So it's very, very easy to get into that trap, to get stuck in that, Jane Doe is doing great. Why am I not doing great? And the reason is because we're all on our own separate journey. We all have our own path. We all have our own journey. And what may take someone else 10 years, it may take you a year. It may take you 5 months. There's really no right or wrong answer, because you're going to know when it is that you feel like you're ready to move on, or you're ready to move forward, or your heart is healed. So I think we get into that trap, especially with looking at what everyone else is doing. I remember going through my divorce. I had a friend and who was actually going through a divorce at the same time, and she had not been married nearly as long as I had. She was just married a few years, and our divorces were final, very, very close in time frame. And then we were both kind of tackling the dating world at the same time. And I felt like in some instances, I wasn't quite ready. I wasn't quite there. I didn't quite know myself. And on the other hand, she was quite ready. She was ready to jump into the dating world. And I thought I was, but I really wasn't. And I didn't want to compare myself to her, but it really was apples and oranges. The fact that I had been married practically my whole life and she had just been married a few years. But it's real easy to get caught up. Okay, let's all go date. Let's go do this. You've got somebody that's with you, that's supporting you, that's there for you. And you think, well, this is what I should be doing. But you need to just take a moment and take a look inside yourself, because if you're not ready, it's not going to work. You're just going to create more problems for yourself.
Yeah. And sometimes even the whole piece about when you weren't ready and your friend was ready, you needed more time alone.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You needed more time alone. And had you given up that alone time to, go out and date and do that whole thing, like comparing yourself to somebody else, like now we should do this, then, resentments come in, like you said, creating more problems and all of that. I think this is an important piece, even when people, no matter what challenges they're going through in life, especially right now, because right now, I think that, bringing up the astrology again, bringing up March 2025, here we are. This is probably the biggest, busiest, most transformative change occurring month of the year. So many things are happening. So many things are changing. So many things all at once. Okay. And I think that it's for everyone to recognize that whatever journey they're on their own unique journey, right? And this is such a perfect topic for right now, because what can people do right now to really anchor in? I'm on my own unique journey. I welcome it. I allow it, right?
Right.
I embrace it.
I think spending time alone is exactly what you talked about earlier. Spending time alone is important. And I know it's hard to do sometimes, especially if you're in that era or that point in your life where you're kind of depressed or you're kind of down or that sort of thing. But I think it's just as important to be with lots of people to avoid getting in that rut, but it's also very important to be alone with your thoughts, to be alone with your feelings, to meditate, to pray, to figure out kind of where you are and listen to that voice. listen to that still small voice in the back of your head that tells you, okay, you're ready, you're not ready. Or I feel like I talked about last time, you feel that thing in the pit of your stomach. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to go this way. I'm not ready to go that way. So I think it's just really important that you really hone in on what your unique journey is.
Yeah, I think, the word change is a big word, and we're all here for it. We're all in it. Change is happening no matter what it is. And so if we can just embrace that change and know that, what is it that you want to change in your life? And I as an advocate for, self-love, self-love advocate, right? That, I always think that, in my own healing journey was that I want to learn how to love myself as much as I possibly can, so that then I can bring that loved and healed self to the relationships, right?
Exactly.
To my relationships, because, then I can be there in the relationship loving myself, right? And, and from that place, so that's the thing. And I think right now with all this change, recognizing that you're on a unique journey that isn't meant to be compared to anyone else, but your uniqueness, because how amazing you are, how amazing each person is, how unique each person is. And if each person recognized how amazing they are, how unique they are, and even though, if things are uncertain, but
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, what is it that people can do? Like you said, they can do all the things, spending time alone, meditate, pray, journal.
Journaling's huge. Even if
Yeah.
you stop and start, I know over the years I was really, okay, I'm gung ho, I'm going to journal. And I would get going for a little while and then I would kind of fall off. And then I would pick it up again. And then, I have 10 or 12 different journals running around. But it is important. It's important to kind of talk to yourself or talk out what it is that you're going through. Dear so and so, I really hate your guts, or whatever it is, or I really miss you, or this is really bothering me, I'm really hurting, but write it out, because that way you're not venting that out until you're really ready to vent those words out. You're writing it down in a journal, which I think is really, really important. And it gets it off your chest. It makes you feel better. And then you can go back and look at it and see how far you've come.
I love that so much, because that's actually how I healed myself too, is using the journal, as a healing modality. And so, yeah, I mean, getting everything out. So it's now out, because not to project it on your partner or on the world or on other people, but that you have it out. And so I love the journaling as a healing practice, and as a way to discover. Do you have any questions that people can ask themselves through this process? Any journal prompt questions?
I think you can probably ask yourself, is your heart still hurting from whatever it is, whether it's, a breakup, a death, or whatever it is your heart still hurting? Do you still have hatred, animosity, certain feelings towards other people, or are you at a place where you can forgive them? Where are you? Those are some of the questions that you kind of have to ask yourself to know where to go next in your journey.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, is your heart still hurting? Because here's the thing about being your authentic self. One thing is for sure, it's about the heart.
Absolutely.
It's all about the heart, because if it's not coming from the heart, everything has to be qualified by the heart. If it's not coming from the heart, then forget about it, because it's not coming from the head, and we're only going where the heart is.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you're doing this. Like I said, this is a movement that you're creating. It's far beyond a book. You're going to be able to do journals and events and classes and courses on all of these topics, and retreats, and really support people in this process, because what a treasure to discover your truest you, and bring that gift out to the world. That's a treasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so good. Good for you. Well, Amey, let's let everyone know where you are on social media and also your website.
Facebook and Instagram, Amey Deanne, AmeyDeanne, and Resilient TX. And my website is my-resilient-journey.com.
Well, I'm looking so forward in the next 2 weeks when you come back and we'll do part 3. So those people that didn't get a chance to see part 1, pretty soon we'll have those episodes on your website. So then
They're
they'll be
already there.
Oh, they're already there. Good
Last
job.
time is already on there.
Oh, good job. So if you missed part 1, go check it out, everybody.
Yes.
So I want to thank you so much for coming on and also thank the audience for listening and tuning in. And we'll see you again next week on the Kornelia Stephanie Show. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, Wake Up to Love, your call to action. Tune in each week on Transformation Talk Radio. Kornelia's joy is to engage others in practical ways, showing us how to live in the new earth in harmony with our true nature. For more information on Kornelia and her extraordinary work, or to listen to past shows, go to her website at korneliastephanie.com.